Welcome and thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation about roof-related issues found during the home inspection. This presentation is about 2 hours and the intent is for you to see what home inspector looks for when they get on the roof and the common items that they find, and for you to be able to recognize issues while looking at a roof that could potentially create problems for your sellers or bring concerns to your buyers. I would love to invite you to join me on home inspections from the comfort and safety of your own home. But first, let's learn a little bit about me. My name is David Aslan. I'm a French Canadian from Quebec. I've been in British Columbia since 1995. And as soon as I got here, I did a few years of schools and then I ended up on construction for about 20 years. 12 years of that was in the walls and ceilings, steel stud framings, insulation, drywall, taping, vapor barriers, and ceilings of all types. But prior to that, I also had 8 years of combined experience, a couple of years as a stucco installer, couple of years as a concrete former, couple of years as a glazer, and then a bunch of other little ones too, such as cabinet installation, flooring installation, and a little bit of electrical as well. But for the last 5 years, I've been licensed as a home inspector through Carson Dunlop and licensed by Consumer Protection BC, which is regulating our industry and run by the government. I've done over 1,000 home inspections. I have over 60 plus Google 5-star Google reviews, over 400 pictures of happy clients with us on our Instagram page, and over 400 educational videos as well on our Instagram. So please make sure you follow in our Facebook and our YouTube as well. So let's start with the common issues found on the roof, and let's learn a little bit about it. So when you look at a roof, often all we see is the covering, but there's plenty of components to this roof, all the penetrations such as the skylights, the chimneys, all the vents. There'll be plumbing stack, there'll be venting from your kitchen fan and your bathroom exhaust fan, but we're also going to talk about the gutters, the internal built-in style or the external one. We'll be talking about caulking as well, and also issues we find on brand new roofs. But first, let's start with the skylights and penetration. So let's look at this first video.
Good opportunity to talk to you about skylights. There's a saying about skylight that it's not if they're going to leak, but when. Because eventually what happens is it seems like there's zero maintenance that gets done on it, and eventually they start leaking. But if you keep up with the maintenance, it should last a very long time. But in this case here, on this roof, there's about 10 skylights, and every single one of them, the seal has filled and moisture has made it in between the paint. I can't barely see through this skylight, and I can see that all the corners, all the sealant is getting out of there. In no time, it's gonna start leaking. I can see also prior repairs all the way along. So keep in mind, skylight does need maintenance as well.
So when we do our home inspection, we always start with the outside and then the roof. But once we get in the inside, that's when we can really see if there's any issues. So on the left here, you can see in that picture that there's obviously water stains around the skylight there. But is that old? Did the caulking they put up there, did that fix that leak? Maybe, maybe not. So then we want to check it out with our infrared camera to see if there's either cold spots. And as you can see, there's definitely some cold spot where the blue color is. But that could also be a lack of insulation up there. Insulation on skylight falls over all the time. But then we finalize this with our moisture meter. We stab the drywall. It obviously shows us that it is an active leak. It is fully wet right now, and that will need immediate attention. So that always goes in the report. Now let's take a look at this next video.
I'm here on this roof, and I'm looking at these skylights. First of all, they all have moisture between the paint. Not the end of the world. It's an old skylight. It will happen on every skylight. But what I wanted to talk to you about here is this. Skylights that are not anchored. You would think this is completely crazy, but actually it's very common. This is a case of the roofer. They replaced the roof, took the skylight out, And then the flashing guy came along, and nobody's like, well, this is not my flashlight. Skylight, so they just put it right back on and didn't screw it in. We've heard stories of in really bad windy weather, if someone opens the door inside, these could poof, pop right up and fall off, kill somebody.
It's definitely dangerous. It's a super easy fix. You just need to put 2 screws on each side right through the flange there. Now we'll keep it nice and secure. It's unfortunately a very common problem that we see on roof, and it shouldn't even be. So in this next video, let's learn a little bit about plumbing stack.
I'm on this roof here, and I'm checking all the penetration. And here we have a plumbing stack. Basically, this at the time of construction, this was coming off the roof. Then they put this rubber thing here that we call a boot. It goes from the top. It's kind of pressure fit. These guys that throw caulking, normally you don't really need to do that. And then you put your shingles around it, and then it's all waterproof. But when you come to this one here, you can see that the boot is completely deteriorated. There's a hole right there. There's absolutely no doubt there's water getting into the attic from this. So this is a really good reminder that once a year, go on your roof. Here, the pitch is basically super low here. It's very safe to walk on this roof. Go on it. See if the gutter's loaded with garbage or water standing in there. If your boots are in good condition. If some of the shingles flew off in the wind. Very important.
So if the homeowner is either elderly, maybe afraid of height, or just doesn't want to get on the roof, very important that they actually get someone up there. And most importantly, to find someone that is not a salesperson. You send a roofer up there, he'll tell you you need a new roof. But if you do ask someone, ask a home inspector. We have absolutely no gain or loss whether you replace this roof or you do any kind of repairs. We're completely unbiased. We can go there, check it out, give you a full report about that roof. Now, again, once we get inside, now I'm checking in the attic. I can see that this plumbing stack is obviously leaking. The sheeting's absorbing most of this water, and that will turn into mold in no time. And then the dripping that happens once in a while when it's raining, the insulation's absorbing a whole lot of it. But we can see on the right with the infrared pictures that it is starting to create a cold spot. There was absolutely nothing visual on the ceiling there, but with the infrared camera, we could see it. So keep in mind, we use the right tools. Now, chimney issues. So chimneys do come with a whole bunch of issues as well. So let's look at this.
I'm here on the roof, just by this chimney, and I wanted to give you a little bit of information about that. We always like to see a chimney cap. Sometimes they're called a rain cap. So there's many benefits to it. One is that it prevents water from getting inside your chimney and rusting the metal damper that's down there. They can also come with a mesh around it that it would prevent animals from getting in there, or bees or anything like that that could create problems. But one really good feature of it is that if it's really windy out there and we have a downdraft, it can always push the smoke back inside the house. But if you do have a good chimney cap, it will prevent that. So as is right now, we see these chimney like this all the time. We'll have to put that in the report to add a chimney cap.
What's happening is I find that often these chimney caps, along the years, they will start rusting. They get kind of all beat up, and eventually they fly off and nobody replaces them. So if you take a look at these next pictures, on the left, you see all this white powder kind of on the chimney. This is inside the attic. So this is called efflorescence. Efflorescence happens when moisture goes through the brick. It captures the salt in the concrete and that brick. And then when it reaches the edge, the water evaporates and the salt stays there. And you'll see that in underground parking everywhere. You'll see this white powdery. It's called efflorescence. So at this point, we know that this chimney, there's water going into it. It's going through the walls. It's going to deteriorate the bricks. But the bigger problem with that is it keeps adding moisture inside the attic. Now, there's one thing to remember here, that moisture is the #1 enemy of any attics out there. You want to prevent any water entry at all costs. So every time you have moisture going through these bricks, gets in the attic and it adds moisture. But not only that, as you can see on the right there, this is not a great pictures, but that's the damper of a fireplace. So if you would open a fireplace and you look up there, you'll see that there's a little hood, basically a little door that opens so that when you run a fire, you open it up so the smoke gets out, and when nothing's happening, you close it so you don't lose all your heat out. But when the rain drops on it, they rust like crazy, and then they're jammed up. So now basically this fireplace is not usable until you fix that damper. So quick fix, you throw one of those beautiful rain cap on top. All the ones there on the left, they're all under $100, and it's close to a do-it-yourself. If you can go on your roof and you're a little handy, you could go up there and easily install that yourself. If not, get a handyman or get a roofer to do it. They'll go up there, put that up there, and then you're gonna save all these problems. If you want one that looks really nice and it adds character to your home, you can do something like the middle picture. There's all kinds out there. If you Google it, you'll see there's a million different type, but you don't have to go expensive. Under $100, get a rain cap. You can get that at Home Depot, install it yourself, or get someone to do it. So here's another video about chimneys.
Here on this roof and this chimney I like to talk to you about. And this is something we see at least half the time. So when you have a chimney, what you have above here, this is called a crown. The idea with this is that the water that flows through will not hit that face and deteriorate all the bricks here. Basically, it just prevents the water from getting on these bricks. But these crowns, very often, they're all deteriorated. You can see cracks here. The water will get inside the chimney and it'll start coming off the side. But in this case here, you got these whole pieces. Like, how would you like to get one of those on the head when there's like some massive wind out there? Or how about if this falls on the roof? It's gonna create damage. So make sure your crown is in really good shape.
Absolutely. The crowns, they're designed to protect the chimney, and they do require maintenance. So when they start cracking, you gotta get a mason guy up there and work on that. Now, the next couple of videos, they're still chimneys, but they're the metal type. So they come with their own set of issues as well.
I'm here on this beautiful roof. Look at this. This thing's brand new. There's really nothing negative to say about this, except that here, I'm looking at this chimney. It's got a little bit of rust. We see that all the time. But then I always want to make sure they're nice and secure. This one's super wobbly, and then I'm like, this whole thing comes right out. That means that there's definitely some gas that's escaping from this flue and getting inside the structure. So I'll check this out once I get inside, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Carbon monoxide poisoning is real, it is dangerous, and whenever you deal with any kind of gas appliances, you have to make sure that this combustion gas gets to the outside. Now, this next video, it's again about a metal chimney, but an entirely different issue.
I'm on the roof here. A lot of snow, very cold today. It's almost -10. And it's just a quick reminder that before the snow comes in, go on your roof and take a look at what's going on. Here we have the exhaust flue for the furnace that is completely gone. I guess it's all rusted here. So I guess last time we did get some decent wind, it probably flew right off. So the problem with that now is that normally they're about this high, so that if it's windy, the air doesn't get in, the wind doesn't get in there and then do some backdrafting. But when it's this low, basically the air can go down and then you can get the exhaust gas back inside the house, and it could be dangerous. So once in a while, do go on your roof, see what's going on, or give us a call. We'll go check it out for you.
Very important. As you can see, this is something you would not be able to see by walking around the house or going back in the street and looking up. And those are big safety items. So very important to keep up with the maintenance and going up on the roof and checking it out. Now, how about roof covering issues? Those are issues that often you can see when you're looking from the outside or from the street. You look at the roof, you'll be able to tell if it's old or newer or just about to need replacement. Let's look at this first video right here.
I'm on this roof. I can see this roof is fairly old. I would say it's about over 20 years old. And it has tons of prior repairs. So I'm glad to see that they're keeping up with all the issues and adding a lot of caulking and tar all the way along. And I can show you a couple more areas here. You can see this whole valley is being caulked. And then this corner was probably taking on some water, and then anyway, they tried to fix it, but that didn't quite happen. So when you see something like this, it's a really good indication that it's time to replace the roof. Why keep on doing repairs, creating problems below, when you know you need to replace it anyways?
Absolutely. The thing is, whenever, and we see this very often with investors when they're going to try to stretch the lifespan of that roof as far as possible because the tenants are not calling saying that it's raining in the kitchen, so they think everything's good. But what's happening is this. So whenever these roofs get very old, they do start taking on a lot more water, and then the attic starts getting completely molded. You can see how fuzzy this is. Right now, instead of costing about $10,000 to replace that roof, now it will very most likely cost $30,000 because the sheeting needs to be replaced. It was deteriorated in many areas. And all this mold, during this whole time people are living inside the house, there's nothing good about it. So if your roof is getting old and you can see, stop doing repairs, just replace it. It will save a lot of money and it's a lot healthier for people living there as well. So here are a couple other pictures of some super old roof that should have been replaced 5-10 years ago. If you're going to list a property, you look at the roof, you can know for sure that there's probably mold in the attic if it looks like that. So keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at this video.
I'm here on the roof, and I want to talk to you a little bit about maintenance. Very important to keep up with your roof. Asphalt shingles, they're saying they last 20 to 25, but only if you do your annual maintenance on it. Look at this one here. Like there's more grass here than at any farms out here. So there's moss all over the place. They added covers on the gutters, but they are so dirty on the top that really the water will skip it and go right on the ground or deteriorate the fascia. There are trees growing here and nerve gun shuts all over the roof. So if you want your asphalt shingle roofs to last you your good 20 to 25 years, like they tell you to when you buy it, make sure you keep up with the maintenance.
It's all about the maintenance. Moss is a big roof killer out there. It keeps the roof wet at all time. It tries to get in between the shingles, and it's not very difficult to get rid of. There's all kinds of product they sell out there that you can either sprinkles on your roof, or you can get some specialty companies to come and clean up your roof. But you got to make sure that whenever this it gets removed, that it doesn't go in your gutters. You have to clean up the gutters right after as well. Otherwise, it creates other kinds of problems. So whenever you have trees around your house and there's a lot of pine needles and branches and all kinds of crap falling on it, you have to make sure that at least once or twice a year, someone, either you or a professional, go up there and clean up that roof. Now let's look about downspout, gutters, and water management issues.
I'm here on this buyer inspection. I'm right on the roof, and I wanted to show you a little quick something. So we can see right here that we have a downspout discharging right on the roof. First of all, it's a very bad idea. It's going to deteriorate the shingle a lot faster than it should. You should have a downspout all the way down in the gutters. The second thing is you don't want to have any of your wall finish or your trims touching the roof. Otherwise, that water is going to hit it and just deteriorate it. So here, take a look at this trim here. The bottom is touching the roof, so everything is completely rotten. So in reality, this should have been cut about 1 inch to 1.5 inches higher than the roof so the water doesn't touch it.
Here's a situation again of, there's a difference between knowing how to do something and knowing why you're doing it. So obviously they had a carpenter on site. They say, hey, go put some trims there in that corner. It'll look nice and pretty. The guy is super good at cutting wood and making angles and everything, but he's got no idea that basically if water runs to it, it will absorb it, it will wake this water up, and it's going to start deteriorating it. So very important, whenever you have a roof, if you're going to get some work done on it, you have to have someone to double check it. Otherwise, you're going to get things like that. Now, let's look at this video.
I'm here on the roof, and I wanted to show you a little something that could save you a lot of money. So if you look at this roof here, it's not a brand new roof, but it looks really good. It's in really good condition. And then all of a sudden, you see these downspout discharging on the roof, and it's completely destroying this whole area. So we always recommend to extend the downspout into the gutters so that this section of the roof is just as good as everything else. Right now, the roof looks great, but this whole section is completely done. So if you have a roof and you're discharging and your gutters are discharging on the roof below, get that fixed. Add an extension to your downspout right into the gutter, and it'll save you a lot of money long run.
Absolutely. So, you know, some people might think that having a downspout on your lower roof looks kind of weird, but there's other things they sell. They sell tracks. They're about 3 to 4 inches, very shallow, and they're the same color as the roof, and you won't even see it. There's also some shingle manufacturers out there who will not cover the warranty if there's water discharging on the roof right there. When they tell you this roof's going to last 20 to 25, it will not last 20 to 25 in those sections. It's like it's getting massively abused. So make sure that the proper installation is done to make sure that this roof lasts as long as what they told you to. Now, here's a couple pictures. You can see in those pictures that it's getting all green. Even when it's not raining, it's gonna stay wet in those situations, in those locations, because of that gooey green algae that's growing there. And it's gonna deteriorate these sections in no time. So next time you go on your roof or you get someone on your roof, make sure they check this out. And if they're not installed, to install them.
And I'm here on the roof in this beautiful area, a lot of trees. Who wouldn't love to live in the forest? Well, I would love it. But what you gotta keep in mind when you're gonna move where you have a lot of trees around is to keep up with cleaning the gutters. When your gutters get filled up with leaves, pine needles, all kinds of garbage, water piles up in there. Here's an example. This is an internal gutter. There's one there. You look another one over there. It's all loaded. And here's an example. So when they overflow, now it starts dripping right here. It's gonna deteriorate this entire corner. It's gonna be a lot of work to repair all that. The easiest way to do it, once a year, you come up here, clean up the leaves.
Absolutely. So what happens is when those gutter overflows, this water runs on the fascia, deteriorates this fascia, then it hits the lip at the bottom, and it wants to get on the soffit. It deteriorates the soffit. Then it starts dripping down right by your foundation, increasing the chance of getting some water getting inside your foundation walls. And also if there's some sidewalks there, this water falls all over. It's going to soften the soil, and then it's going to go click, click, and it's going to start cracking. And that's why you see houses and their sidewalks are all over the place, because of poor water management. Here's another one. So basically here you can see, oh, I'm going to show you this other video here.
I'm here in Richmond doing this massive home here, home inspection, and I'm on the roof. And these houses, like many other houses out there, there's really 2 types of gutters. There's one that is an external gutter that you normally see, and there's the built-in gutter, the one that you don't see, that comes like with a membrane. What I'm not crazy about is this membrane. A regular gutter, if it drips, if it has a hole, you see it, blick, 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 it keeps coming, and then you see it, you go put some caulking on it, fix it, call it a day. But this one here, this type of membrane, if you see right here, it's super deteriorated. You know what, like, see, it's cracking pieces like this. Water's gonna get in there, and when water gets in there, well, it damaged the structure. So it's really important to keep up the maintenance on these gutters. We'll throw it on the report.
Absolutely. Internal gutters. The issue that I have with this is that because you can't see them, people think that they're all, well, it must be in good, it must be in great shape, when really they do need some massive maintenance. If someone goes on the roof every year, make sure that the seams are nice and tight, that there's no water that gets in between, that they're not all cracking and getting all dried up. Because the problem with them is when they leak, often it creates either structure damage or damage under the soffit. An external gutter, when it drips, it basically drips down, and then you can see, okay, I'm gonna put some caulking there and fix it. But the internal one, you only see the issues either when water is dripping through the soffit or when you get on the roof. So here's a couple pictures. As you can see on the left, I can fit my whole hand there in between the membrane. So water is getting in there. Every time it rains, water gets in there as if there was nothing. And here's another an example in that picture on the right of a very early, when it's just starting to go through the soffit. After a while, the soffit will be so deteriorated, it'll fall right down. It's gonna cost quite a bit to repair this whole section. So you have to make sure that basically that the membrane, the seams are nice and tight, and wherever there's a downspout, you saw that they put a patch around there. It needs to be fully sealed properly in an absolutely perfect condition. Otherwise, it creates damage to the structure. Now, in this section, we'll be talking about caulking and flashing issues. Let's take a look at this first video.
I'm here on the roof, actually a brand new roof. It looks super great, but no matter which type of roof you have, asphalt shingles, they do tend to last 20, 25 years. The concrete tile roof will last 40 years, and there's some, they last all kinds of ages. But keep in mind that there's other things on that roof that will not last as long. And for example, caulking. As you can see here, caulking is starting to separate. So you'll get water coming down here. It's going to get inside there. And I was just told by William inside that there's some water stains right by the chimney. Caulking should be actually on the exterior, should be replaced every 5 years. So keep an eye on it. If you see it's starting to peel off or it's having some gaps and openings here and there, shave it off and put some new caulking. That will extend the lifespan of everything else and it won't be leaking.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when I say 5 years, depending on the sun exposure, if one side of the house get a lot more sun than the other, this caulking will definitely deteriorate a lot faster. So when you do your annual maintenance, you go up there, see if there's any crack, if it's all dry, if it's starting to peel off, you shave this thing off, you throw some new one, you do a nice job, and now you'll be preventing any kind of issues with leakage in the attic or on your ceiling below.
I'm here on this concrete tile roof, and I wanted to talk to you about the importance of keeping up with the caulking. Concrete tile roofs, every time that there's no possibility of adding a tile on top of the other one, then they throw caulking, just like that. And eventually, this caulking, like every other caulking, it needs to be replaced, it needs to be maintained. So in this case here, the water gets right into this crack, and see what happened to all the fascia board. The whole thing is falling apart. So, this is just annual maintenance. When you have a roof, no matter which type of roof it is, it's important to get a guy up there to make sure that everything's in order. Otherwise, deterioration is going to start happening.
When the caulking gets dry, as you could see there on the fascia, it needs a full replacement. Now it's all deteriorated. It's been running like this for way too long. So if someone did some annual maintenance, they would have noticed this, fill up this gap, and this fascia would look just as pretty as it was on day one. Now, here's a couple pictures of some caulking or sealant on those concrete roof that is deteriorated. On the left, you can see an opening. Obviously, when it rains, it's pouring in the attic. And on the other side there, you get a separation. There may be another tile under there, but obviously this caulking needs to get redone. Now, in this next section of this presentation, we'll talk about roof pest entry points. Oh, look at me there.
I'm up on this tree right here. And actually, no, I'm actually on the roof. But if I was a rat, this is the attic I would want to be into. Look at the beautiful access on the roof through these nice trees all over the place. This is the easiest roof for any kind of rodents to get into. Then they're gonna go, and they're gonna take the little shovel and they're gonna dig a hole right down here, and they're gonna get right in your attic, make a nice little family in there, make some tunnels, trails, a little bit of droppings here and there. So if you don't want the rats to look at your roof and be like, that's where I want to move in, then make sure that you get rid of all these trees that are touching your roof. They should be a couple feet away because they will jump.
I mean, there's nothing good about having any kind of vegetation either touching your walls or making it all the way to the roof. Basically, in windy weather, the branches will be scraping all the material. It will deteriorate the roof. It's obviously a direct access for pest activity. It also keeps the shade on your roof and the wall. They stay wet at all time and creates more deterioration. So if you have any kind of vegetation around your home, we always recommend keeping it a couple feet away from the walls so that there's an opportunity for the air to dry behind it, and also it prevents pest activity from getting on your roof. Now in this next video, I'd like to talk to you about those cute little raccoons and what they do with these cute little hens of theirs.
I'm here on this beautiful clay tile roof. Looks great. They do last a very long time. Excellent type of roof. But the first thing I notice here is that we have some droppings that are pretty decently big. That makes me think it's a raccoon. Raccoons, what they can do is they can actually take these tiles and move them and make a hole and get right into your attic. Sounds kind of crazy, right? But here's an example. So this tile's been pulled out of the way. Now there's an opening right there. And if I would show you inside, there's all kinds of droppings in there. So once I get in this attic, actually I'm not sure if I have access in that one, but long story short, it's loaded with dropping pest activity and raccoons.
Raccoons don't fly and get on your roof. They also need a tree or a fence or something that's almost reaching your roof. Around this house, there were, again, 2-3 trees that were right against the house, giving perfect access for these raccoons and their little babies to go up on the roof and find themselves a nice little safe place to live. So again, vegetation, if you get rid of the trees around this house, you basically get rid of the raccoon. They won't climb on stucco or anything like that. But in this next video, I like to show you that even if there's no trees around your house, there's still a possibility to get some pest activity.
A couple weeks ago, I made a video about raccoons who could actually take tiles on the roof like this and move them, make a hole, and get in the attic. Well, I'm not 100% positive what's going on here, but this tile here has been pushed down, and now there's an opening here, and I see one of these guys here. So I'm thinking, and I've seen it before, pigeons will pick their way into a roof as well. I'm not sure if this tile was already slid down. I doubt they could move it, but I know that they'll poke through the membrane and get inside. So once I get in the attic, I'll know a little bit more. But keep in mind, if you have a concrete tile roof, go on it once in a while. Take a look. And if you're not going to do it, get somebody else to do it.
100%. Again, you need someone to go and check these things out. Pigeons, they will get in your attic. They will find a spot. They're going to have droppings everywhere. And sometimes they make these massive big nests in your attic too. If you go up on your upper floor and you hear boo, 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 there's nothing cute about that. Get the pest control company in there so they can get rid of them, just like the rats. There's a fungus that grows on their dropping that gives lungs infections, and some people can get really sick out of it. You have pigeons, nothing good about it. Make sure you get rid of them. Now, those concrete tile roof, I mean, the wavy style one, every time, for example, you see on the left here, every time you put a roof vent, it's going up and down. So it creates openings all the time. And wherever there's the edge, you can see on the right there that this wave opening, wave opening, wave opening, it creates a crazy amount of openings for any kind of pest activity to get in your attic space. So every time I say I'm going to do a home inspection on a home that has a concrete tile roof and it's the wavy type of tile, I'm almost guaranteed that there's going to be pest activity in there. And you can imagine too, now if you got like 300 openings like this on your roof, are you going to spend 3 weeks to try to cover them all up with a mesh or expanding foam or something? No, there's basically, it's really tough to control the pest activity in the attic when you have this type of concrete roof. If you're gonna go concrete, because concrete is a really good roof, it lasts very long, you wanna go with the flat concrete tile and not the wavy style, unless they have another specific way of installing them and it doesn't create openings. From what we can see, it creates a lot of openings very often. So now let's talk about new roof issues. You would think that a brand new roof should be perfect, that there should be absolutely nothing wrong with it. Something, sure, there will be no wear and tear, But what we find is mostly poor craftsmanship, unfinished projects, or really crazy little things. And let's start with this video right here.
Home inspection on this brand new home. Yes, brand new and super big and very beautiful in this neighborhood that is popping a new house every couple days. So should you get a home inspection on a brand new home? I don't know. I'll let you decide on that. So I'm on the roof right here. This whole section of the roof, the flashing is completely missing. It's an unfinished project. And that's not the worst. Actually, this whole portion of the roof doesn't even have any water to drain away. So look at it. Here. You'll have ducks in there in no time. Hey, might as well throw a fish in there as well. So, should you get a home inspection done on a brand new home? 100% you should.
That is a guaranteed fact. Now let's look at this next video.
Doing a home inspection here on a brand new home, brand new roof, you would think this would be in really good shape. But you know what happened? Once in a while, some of the subtrade will make a mistake and they don't want to get in trouble, so they might not mention anything. So here's an example. Brand new roof, and look at the hole that we have right here in this roof. It's about 5/8 of an inch. Water's gonna get in there. So should you get your brand new home pre-inspected or inspected? 100%.
When I was about 20 years on construction, I've seen tons of stuff like that where, you know, guys, they'll do something like, for example, in this situation, an electrician probably wanted to poke a hole through the roof to run a wire and then bam, realized they threw it right through the flashing. And they're like, oh my God, now they're gonna need to replace this flashing. In order to replace it, we need to peel off all these shingles. It's gonna take, you know, whatever time, and it's gonna cost thousands of dollars. Let's just keep it quiet. Nobody goes on the roof anyways. Well, we do, and that is why we find these kind of items. And just for the record, I did re-inspect that later on. The builder said it was fixed, and it was not. So whenever you get a brand new roof inspected and the builder says they fixed the items, still get it inspected because the chances are that it is not. Now let's keep the craziness going.
I'm here inspecting this house. It's not even 6 months old. It's super new. The roof is beautiful. It's nice and clean. And then, you know, it almost seems sometimes like you might not even need to inspect it. Well, that's what the seller said. He said, well, it's brand new. What are you going to do up there? But in reality, then I come to it and I see that right here, one whole strip of shingle flew right off. It's gone. It's basically right on the black paper right here, on the tar paper. Nails, everything. So even when a home is brand new, it's very important to get it inspected. Here's another one example of that. And I'm sure I'll find plenty of other examples on this house.
And you would think that this is like 1 in a million, but it's not. It totally is not. So that's where the problem is. Like it's not a 1 in a million. It happens fairly frequently. And you know, and also this next video, just a reminder that our home inspection is not all about deficiencies. The roof might be in beautiful condition, but there may be some safety issues. And here's one.
We're here on this brand new construction again, on a little bit of an unusual roof, a metal roof here. I love it. I think this is gonna last a very long time, very low maintenance. But what I wanted to talk to you about here today is all this debris that is still here on that roof. This place is being done, it's being sold, and there's all this kind of crap here on the roof that could easily fly out. And look how high we are. We're super high. This could easily kill someone down there, a kid, or anybody, really. Look, it's a metal angle. This thing's gonna slice someone's head in no time. So, if you're a builder, keep an eye on your trade. Make sure that the roof is clean right up of all debris. Otherwise, it's going to be a liability. It could hurt somebody. There's nothing good about it.
There's absolutely nothing good about it. And again, this is not 1 in a million. Very often we find debris on the roof. Sometimes they even leave a sheet of plywood. These things can pick up in the wind, start flying, and really create some massive damage. So, I mean, site supervisors should take the time every time a subtrade is done with their work to go and verify it. How about that? And then make sure that they cleaned it up properly. Otherwise, like I mentioned, this could be a lawsuit or it could even kill somebody. Now, this next section is about roof education. For us at Inspect Canada, we're not all about deficiencies. We want to educate our client as much as possible. So if we find something that is done super nicely or a great feature or something that will add value to our clients, we always want to let them know about it. But in this case, I got a few videos. So let's look at this one.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this little piece of flashing right here. This is called a kick-out flashing. Basically, the idea with this flashing is that the water is coming down this roof, and instead of running over the fascia here and rut the end of this piece of wood, it basically kicks the water right back in the gutter. Every time we do home inspections, we go around the house and we see the ends of these fascia board completely deteriorated. And all you need to do is throw a little piece of flashing up here. So it's a very easy solution to save a lot of money, because when this is rotten, it's not like you can paint it. And if you cut it here, it's a lot of work to try to repair something that should be so easily prevented. So if you have a roof and you don't have kick-out flashing, consider installing them. You'll save tons of money.
So whenever I'm going to a home inspection, I look up on the roof and I see that it has kick-out flashing and that it has downspout extending in the gutter and all that. Then I know that this homeowner is the type of person that thinks long run, that whenever they get 3 quotes, they don't go for the cheapest guy. But when I go to a house and I see, for example, here are those pictures, the fascia that's all deteriorated like this because they couldn't even take the time to cut a little piece of angle and screwing it in the corner. They wanted to save the 2 minutes. So that homeowner is the type of person that gets 3 quotes and pick the cheapest guy. So that also means that they probably pick the cheapest guy to install their furnace. They pick the cheapest guy to do their paintings. They always pick the cheapest guy. So then we have to crank up our inspection pickiness to make sure that we don't miss anything. So here's a small detail. Here's another detail that you'll see on the roof only really if you go on it. From the street, that's not something you normally see.
I'm doing a home inspection and I'm on this roof right now. There's a chimney and there's a small details on the roof that we don't see very often that makes a huge difference for water penetration at the chimney. So when you have a chimney that is at least 3 feet, and even if it's 30 inches, or really depends on the location. So here's 1, 2, 3. This is a 36 inches chimney. The water of this roof is going to come down and then hit that chimney. So what they've installed here is what's called a cricket or a saddle. That basically now, instead of having the water bang against the chimney and try to find a way in, it's going to be redirected this way or that way. So if you have a very wide chimney, consider getting a cricket installed. It will save you a lot of money in repairs.
Any kind of penetration to your roof, whether it's a chimney, a plumbing stack, or a vent, it's an opportunity for leakage. So whenever possible, if it can be done properly, you will avoid all kinds of water damage. Now, I came across these amazing shingles, and I wanted to let you know about it.
I'm here on this roof, on this actually very amazing roof. Look at these shingles and look how thick they are. Those are called premium shingles, and look at this, 60 years warranty. Yes, they are a little bit more expensive, but hey, for those thinking long run, these are the shingles you want to have. And look, they look awesome.
Yeah, they do look pretty amazingly good. They're super thick. They're probably 5 times thicker than the regular shingles. I have no idea, to tell you the truth, how much it costs to install one of those. But for those thinking long run, this is the roofing material that you want to have. Now, in this next video, often our clients or agents don't fully understand why we put this in the report, and here's why.
I'm here on this flat roof of this house from the 60s. And I wanted to talk to you about a little something that we add in the report, and it's evidence of prior repairs. Why do we put that in the report? The reason is that leaks occurs more often in areas where it previously leaked and had repairs. So for example, on this roof, it's a nice flat roof, but you see this whole area here, there has been a repair. It's even soft still. So, you know, if something ever happens on this roof, it'll very most likely happen just right here. So we always put down the report and tell the new owner to monitor and make sure that there is no more leakage in these areas. So, but we always document it.
We want to document it, but not only there. Also, often we'll get in the garage, we'll see there's some water stains on the ceiling, and we'll basically investigate to see if they're either dry or wet. And if they're dry, then there's a couple possibility. It either was a problem that got fixed, could have been an accident, or it's something. Sometimes homeowners, they have 5, 6 washroom in their house. When one starts leaking, they stop using it. So we want to make sure that if we see any kind of prior repairs, we put that in the report. It's not a deficiency, it's in an information section so that they can keep an eye on it and monitor. Like I mentioned, if it leaks again, it will very most likely leak where it previously did. Now, a little bit of information about flat roofs.
I'm here on this flat roof, and I wanted to talk to you about these dirty areas that we find on these flat roofs. The whole roof is all nice and clean, but you can see here close to this drain or close to this other drain over there, it's nice and dirty. And this is basically happening because of water ponding. The slope of the roof is not perfect, so there's to bring all the water to those drains. So sometimes the water ponds in certain areas. Now, the longer it ponds, the heaviness of the water will kind of creates a little bit of it's going to lower the roof in that area a little bit. And then next time it rains more, there's more water, it's heavier. And next time, blah, blah, and it keeps going and it just gets worse. And then the dirt sticks to that water. And then when the water evaporates, it gets all dirty like that. So the only really good options for this is to reslope the roof. And in most cases, it's very expensive. It's not a massive big deal. As long as the water evaporates within 48 hours, it's normally okay.
That's right. So if the water evaporates within 48 hours, it's normally not a problem. There are no perfect flat roofs out there. Most of them will have a little bit of ponding. When they install these roofs, they put some styrofoam of different thickness and then just to create these slopes, and it doesn't always get done 100%. But sometimes we go on these roofs and it hasn't rained in a week and it still has a bit of a lake there. So you can see that eventually this water will make its way in and it will create problem. So definitely flat roofs, they need to be inspected. These little areas that keeps ponding, and often you could see on this video that it was where the drains were because that's where the water is supposed to go. If these drains get all plugged up and dirty, then it starts pulling water as well. So that is all part of annual maintenance as well. So now here's an example of a roof that should have been replaced a while back.
One of the questions that we're often asked is, when should I replace my roof? In reality, when we walk on the roof, we can't really tell if it's leaking until we get in the attic or, you know, once we run the infrared camera on the ceilings to see if there's any active leaks. But there are some clues that we can look at on the roof that will indicate that this roof is ready to go. So I'm on one of those roofs right now. So when you look at your shingles and you see that the granular part, this kind of sandy part is designed to protect the shingles from UV rays burning these shingles. Now you can see that it's missing a lot of it. And also look at the gaps in between, huge gaps. These shingles were almost tight, so they shrank. So when your roof looks like this, well, it was ready to be replaced about 8 years ago.
This roof is brutal. You can imagine that the attic space is suffering as a result. And why wait this long? I mean, you know, it only costs more to fix it later on. Now, how about in those cases where we can't get on the roof?
And I'm here doing this house in North Vancouver today. Whenever possible, we always want to walk the roof, making sure it's in good shape and everything. But what we have here, this is a shake roof. It's really easy to damage it when you walk on it. There's actually a pretty good pitch on it, and it just rained for the last week or so. It's super slippery. So this is what we have. We have what's called a spectroscope. It's a 30-foot pole with a camera that's hooked up to a Wi-Fi, and I can see. So you can see up there, there is a flat roof. It's holding water. It's ponding water on top of it. So, and now I can take pictures of this. I can zoom in it. So if we're not able to walk on the roof, we can still fully inspect it.
There's absolutely no doubt that walking the roof is the best way to inspect a roof. We can feel sometime with our feet if there's some soft sections, maybe the shading's deteriorated in some areas. Obviously, it's the best way to do it. But in case of shake shingles, like on that roof in the video, these shingles, they get so slippery. There's a little bit of an algae that grows on them. and it's almost impossible to walk on them. And when it hasn't rained in a while and they're fully dry, they're super easy to crack. So you'll walk on it, they'll pop, they'll break in half. And for us, we don't want to walk a roof that could create damage on it. Even the concrete tile roof, a lot of inspectors will not walk on them. I do because I'm not very heavy. I'm a pretty small guy. Plus, I've worked on concrete roof for years, so I have a really good idea on how to walk on them and make sure I don't damage them. But if there is a situation where we cannot walk this roof, we want to make sure that we still fully inspect it with the tools and technology that we have, such as the Spectroscope. So now it's time. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. If you receive a report from another inspector, or you go to a house and you find something, take a picture, text us, send it by email. We'll be super happy to help you with that. So if you have any question, you can give us a call, 778-683-7147, or send us an email at fastreply@inspect.ca, and we'll be happy to get right back to you. So I want to say thank you. I'm truly grateful that you took the time to watch our roof inspection presentation. And until next time, have an awesome day.